Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Wes. We're talking Forgotten Boons in today's video, as we are getting into another Forgotten Realms video. Heroes of the Forgotten Realms specifically. So, let's go. Right. Bit of housekeeping. This video was recorded before any updates or erratas to the books, so keep that in mind. Some of this may change, but slightly, between now and the official release, and even possibly after the official release, knowing WotC. But yeah, so epic boons. Remember, all epic boons are available once you hit 19th level. There are those in the player's handbook, and then campaign specific ones. So these are specifically to the Forgotten Realms. If you're playing in like Grim Hollow, I don't think you'd have these available unless your DM says otherwise. So we are going to get right into it. We have the Boon of Bloodshed. All epic boons let you increase one stat of your choice. Unless it says specifically, I'm not going to mention it. So the Boon of Bloodshed has Killer's Fortune. When an enemy you can see is reduced to 0 hit points, you gain advantage on specific. Okay, so when you can see an enemy, you gain advantage on your next attack roll you make before the end of the turn. So you don't actually have to be the one to knock them to 0. There's no... You just have to see them. So, assuming 120 feet is line of sight on most spells. So, I guess an enemy within 120 feet of you. And you just gain advantage on your next on the next attack roll you make before the end of your next turn. Pretty good. The second half of that is Power from Pain, which, if you are a 40k fan, you know this used to be the Drukhari or Dark Eldar's ability prior to their Codex release, with their pain tokens and whatnot. Anyway, Power from Pain in the Forgotten Realms, and on this epic boon, means once per turn when you make an attack roll against an attack roll while bloodied, so you have to be bloodied, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to your proficiency bonus. The extra damage is the same type of the weapons damage. So at this level, you're going to do 6 extra damage while you're bloodied. I mean, it's better than doing no damage. So there's that. I don't like abilities that require you to be bloodied, but still. So, our next boon. Boon of Bountiful Health. Augmented Health. You gain temporary hit points. Oh, whenever you gain temporary hit points, increase the number of temporary hit points you gain by 5. So, if you are the Spellfire Sorcerer with the ability to give out temporary hit points, or to give yourself temporary hit points equal to your level plus a d4 plus your spellcasting modifier. So with one of the tomes that increase your knowledge, you could possibly have, let's say right at level 19, a +6 without any other boons or anything to that. So 6 plus 19 levels is 25, plus an additional 5 makes it 30, plus a d4 on top of that. And that sorcerer had the ability, the sorcerer has the ability to do this as a bonus action every turn for 1 sorcery point. So this on that sorcerer is pretty good. On top of the superior recuperation, when you spend 1 or more hit dice to regain hit points, you can instead use the highest number possible for each dice. This is really good for the Spellfire Sorcerer actually, because they had an ability that allowed them to reduce damage by spending hit dice. So that means come a short rest, they'd have less hit dice, but being able to just gain the maximum of 6 from every die rolled kind of makes up for that lack of hit dice that you would have had normally. Pretty good, pretty good. Boon of Communication. This one specifically increases a mental stat, which is your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. Gives you the cunning speaker ability. You don't have disadvantage on ability checks to influence hostile creatures. Gifted interpreter. You can understand the literal meaning of any language you hear, see, that is signed, and you can understand the literal meaning of any written language as well. Then you also gain telepathy out to a range of 120 feet, which is larger than most abilities that give you telepathy, like the Knowledge Domain Cleric, gives you telepathy at level 6. The Great Old One Warlock gives you telepathy. The Aberrant Mind Sorcerer also gives you telepathy, but not to a range out to 120 feet. And the Soul Knife, I think, actually gives you a range of to a mile. Either way, not that bad of a feature, but not really I think the best epic boon there is either. Especially like the Knowledge Cleric already has the ability to cast Comprehend Languages and Tongues, so kind of redundant for them. Boon of Desperate Resilience. This one specifically increases your strength or constitution, and it gives you defense of body and mind. While you are bloodied, you have resistance to every damage except force damage. Once again, being bloodied to gain, I mean, there's also other feats that give you resistance and other ways to get resistance a lot earlier. The Winter Walker Ranger gives you resistance to cold damage. The Paladin, the Genie Paladin's aura gives you resistance to elemental damage. The Scion of the Three gives you resistance to a specific damage type. Being a Tiefling will give you resistance to other things. Being an Azamar will give you resistance to necrotic and radiant damage. And if you pair this with one of the... If you're using the Planescape book, one of the backgrounds and origin feats that you get can actually provide you resistance to necrotic damage. Or force damage. I did that video. That was like one of my first videos. Boon of Exquisite Radiance. This gives you Eternal Rest. Creatures you reduce to 0 hit points, specifically you, cannot become undead. And when you make a damage roll that deals radiant damage, you can instead use the highest number possible for each damage die. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so until you finish a long rest. This is very powerful. If you had like a cleric, use your action to cast Hollow, and then you wanted to, you know, vulnerability to radiant damage, use an ability that deals radiant damage, and now you're dealing double damage, but also max double damage. Very strong right there. Really good benefit. That's probably the strongest way I can think about doing it. Alright, our next one. Bone of Fluid Forms. This increases your mental stats again, and you gain Shape Changer. You can take a magic action to shapeshift into a beast, humanoid, or monstrosity with a challenge rating no higher than 10. I mean, most humanoids aren't going to have a challenge rating higher than 10, except very high level mages. And Disguise Self is a spell, Alter Self is a spell that lets you take humanoid shape. You're basically doing this for humanoid or for beast and monstrosities. While shape change, you gain temporary hit points equal to that form, and this lasts for an hour, or until you have no temporary hit points left, or if you take a magic action to return to your true form. You keep your mental stats. It's basically wild shape. However, you can become a monstrosity, and it's level 10. This is actually pretty cool if you decided to like multi-class into Druid for some reason and didn't go enough levels into Druid to get to like that, and you're not a Moon Druid. It's pretty good. Like I said, multi-class in Druid and then don't have that many levels for wild shape, or if you just wanted to transform into a beast for some reason, or monstrosity, because you can still use your spells. Then you also get, when you gain temporary hit points from your shapeshift feature, you also gain an increased number. You can increase that number by 20 temporary hit points on top of that. If you combine this with the feat earlier that gave you an additional 5 temp HP on top of whenever you gain temp HP, so now you're getting 25 temp HP. If you were something like a Druid, then you're gonna be tanky. And there's no limitation, okay, because it says Shape Changer is the name of the feature earlier, but the Hardy Transformation, when you shapeshift, is specifically what it says. So it doesn't necessarily require you to have to use it on the earlier feature. Actually really good on a Moon Druid. Boon of Fortune's Favor is our next one, and this is Saving Throw Reroll is the ability. When you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it, and you must use the new one. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish until the start of your next turn. Doesn't require your reaction. You can just re-roll saving throws once per turn. I'd like it better if it said on a success. So you can constantly reroll fails. Like if you failed it, you failed it. But you can still try to reroll again for, let's say, another effect tried to affected you. Still, you know, not bad. Just reroll saving throw. Boon of Poison Mastery. This, you have immunity to the poison damage and the poison condition with antitoxic. Then Perfect Poisoner. Once per turn, when you roll dice to determine poison damage a creature takes from your attack, spell, or feature, you can instead use the highest number possible. I mean, the only way to get around poison resistance with the base 2024 classes is with the Poisoner feat. That only gets past resistance, not immunity. If you are playing something like Grim Hollow and you're using the one specific ranger or monk from that book, then this is actually super powerful. I mean, the immunity to poison condition I think you already have, but being able to just maximize your poison damage while ignoring resistance or immunity is really good. So think about this feat with those subclasses, or if you're, I guess the rogue cunning strikes, one of them has the ability to poison as well. However, base game, the only way to gain around poison resistance is with the Poisoner feat, and I guess if you're already taking Poisoner, then this is probably not that bad. But Poisoner only does 2d8 damage. And they have to fail still. So buff Poisoner DMs. Alright, then we have Boon of Revelry. Increase your mental stat again. This gives you Inspire Dance. You always have Otto's Irresistible Dance. You can cast it without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it this way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast it using any spell slots of the appropriate level. When you cast the spell, it requires no components, and taking damage doesn't break concentration on it. Then you have Sing Out. While a creature that has failed its saving throw against your Otto's Irresistible Dance, that creature has the Charm condition. Also, it can't cast spells with verbal components, and it sings delightful nonsense if it can sing. So not only are they forced to dance, they're forced to sing and dance. And because they're singing, they can't cast spells with a verbal component. That is a huge debuff on a creature. Our next one is Boon of Terror. This specifically increases your charisma by 1. And you gain Fearless. You have the immunity to the Frightened condition. There's a lot of abilities that give you immunity to Frightened. So, I mean, there's a lot that give you immunity to Frightened and Charmed. But that's not the only part. You also get Flee Fools. When a creature with the Frightened condition starts its turn within 60 feet of you, you can take a reaction to stoke the terror, provided that the creature can see you and isn't behind total cover. If you do so, the creature has to make a Wisdom saving throw against your Charisma-based DC, or spend its turn moving as far away from you the fastest available means. Once you use this benefit, you can't use until you finish a short or long rest. And then you also have Intimidating. You gain proficiency with Intimidation, and if you already have it, you gain Expertise. Boon of the Bright Sun! Increase your Constitution, Wisdom, or Charisma by 1. Daylight Presence. As a bonus action, you radiate 30 feet of bright light in an emanation. That is sunlight, so watch out, vampires. If any of the emanation overlaps with darkness created by a spell, the spell is dispelled. The emanation lasts until you dismiss it, no action required, or you die or have the incapacitated condition. So this is just bonus action, get rid of darkness. And also Fortifying Light. When your Daylight Presence is active and you, at the start of each of your turns, you and your allies that you can see in the Daylight Presence gain 10 temporary hit points. So this is every turn you just gain 10 temp HP, which isn't a lot. Doesn't seem like the most powerful unless you're dealing with vampires a lot. Maybe you're playing Curse of Strahd and your character came from the Forgotten Realms, but by the time you left Barovia and got back to the Realms, you're probably not level 19 yet to have learned this feature or have manifested it. I don't know. But what else do we have? Boon of the Furious Storm. Increase your mental stat. Okay, this actually has a prerequisite of spellcasting or pack magic feature. Increase one of your mental stats. You have Eye of the Storm, so you gain resistance to lightning and thunder damage, and while you're bloodied, you have immunity to those specific damage types. Then you have Storm Strength. Creatures have disadvantage on saving throws against spells that deal lightning or thunder damage. This is not bad. And then lastly, Boon of the Soul Drinker. You have Grave Resistance. You have resistance to cold and necrotic damage. And then Siphon Life. When an enemy within 120 feet of you is reduced to 0 hit points, you can take a reaction to regain 50 hit points. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so until you finish a short or long rest. I mean, the resistance is cool. They just regain 50 hit points is nice, but if you're not down 50 hit points, then... oh well. I mean, you could still just regain until you're, topped off to max, I guess. Like, oh, I just got hit for 46 hit points or 32. I might as well just... and somebody dies. You know what? Let me just regain 50 to top myself back to max or whatever. So it's not the worst thing. Resistance to cold and necrotic damage. You can get those from other features. And like I mentioned before when I was talking about the other feat that gave you resistance to everything but force. So there's a lot of ways to get resistance to those damage types already. That's pretty good. Not the best, not the worst as far as epic boons go. I would say my favorite epic boon has to be... not Poison Master, that's for sure. I think Fluid Forms, the one that lets you shape change. Or, I don't know, the one that lets you just max radiant damage is pretty good too, as my go-to top favorites. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. As always, I've been Wes Where's the Fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.